The heat was a tangible enemy, a heavy, suffocating shroud over the Rub el Khali desert. Dr. Kaylin Scythe knelt on the shifting dunes, her specialized radar unit beeping insistently, cutting through the silence of the empty quarter. This vast, desolate landscape held secrets that swallowed men whole, but Kaylin was confident the legends were true. Beneath the sand, at a depth no modern excavator could reach, lay the fabled vault of the Kronos Lock. Her hands, calloused from years of handling ancient stone, trembled slightly as she verified the coordinates. The structure below was massive, perfectly geometric, and utterly impossible, a subterranean fortress built by the sons of Iram. Kaylin activated the phased array sonic vibrator, sending a deep, rhythmic pulse into the sand above the target zone. The sand shivered, then groaned, and in a thunderous cascade, a giant sinkhole opened, revealing a smooth, obsidian mouth carved into the earth. The entrance was a vertical shaft, descending into absolute, cool darkness, a stark contrast to the blazing sun above. This was it, the thrill of discovery mixed with the cold dread of the unknown. She secured her rappelling gear, checked the oxygen levels in her internal respirator, and began the perilous descent. The air immediately changed, becoming thick and stale, smelling of ozone and millennia of trapped dust. The shaft walls were covered in inscriptions, angular, complex geometric patterns that seemed to absorb the light. After nearly 50 meters, her boots hit a solid landing platform, the antechamber of the vault. It was a wide, circular room, eerily quiet, the silence broken only by the drip of moisture deep within the structure. Kaylin switched on her headlamp, its beam cutting across the room to illuminate the single exit, a low, narrow corridor. As she stepped forward, a faint metallic click echoed from the floor beneath her foot. She froze instantly, the blood draining from her face as she realized her mistake. She had triggered the first defense, a classic pressure plate mechanism honed over 5,000 years. A low, grinding sound started, and sections of the stone wall ahead began to slide, revealing razor-sharp obsidian blades designed to cross the corridor. Kaylin scanned the ceiling, locating the counterbalance mechanism immediately. She took a running leap, tucking into a tight ball as she rolled beneath the first slow-moving blade. She barely cleared the second before it slammed shut, trapping her temporarily in a small alcove. She used her climbing knife to pry open the counterbalance panel, jamming a titanium wedge into the gears to override the lock. The blades immediately retracted with a loud, grating hiss. Catching her breath, Kaylin moved quickly, acutely aware of the vault's silent threat. A fresh scrape mark on the obsidian floor, caused by a modern crampon, chilled her more than the traps. Her greatest rival, Professor Silas Vellum, was here, tracking the same deep seismic signatures. Vellum was brilliant, but ruthless, a man who would happily seal any exit behind him. The stakes were instantly raised from academic discovery to a life-or-death confrontation. Kaylin pressed on, moving with renewed urgency. The corridor opened into a vast hemispherical chamber, the air within alive with a low, resonant hum. This chamber housed the second challenge, a purely intellectual test designed to stop anyone lacking true academic insight. The floor was etched with a long-dead constellation, and 5 massive stone slabs rotated slowly overhead. Each slab was inscribed with a phrase in the extinct language of the Iram civilization. The humming intensified, and a pillar of light descended, illuminating a cryptic pedestal at the center. The riddle was clear. Align the slabs to complete the phrase of the sons of Iram's genesis. Vellum had failed here. An explosive charge mark proved his attempt to brute force the solution. Kaylin began translating in her head, realizing the key was a rare passive voice, used only in creation myths. The correct sequence referred to the cosmic order of the ancients. She identified the sequence. When the sand sleeps, the heavens are bound. She pushed the first 3 slabs into position, the grating of stone against stone echoing loudly. As the final slab clicked into place, the resonant humming stopped, replaced by a deep, satisfying thunk. A hidden archway shimmered into existence on the far side of the chamber. She sprinted through the archway, moving through a short passageway smelling sharply of dynamite residue. Kaylin emerged onto a small balcony overlooking the core of the vault, and there he was. Silas Vellum stood on the main floor below, illuminated by the emerald glow of the artifact he was examining. The core chamber was immense, a cylindrical cavern whose ceiling was too high to see, lined with ancient technology. Vellum looked up, startled, his face a mask of furious recognition. "Scythe," he hissed, his voice echoing with predatory rage. "Always too late, but always showing up. Silas, stop." "Whatever that is, you don't understand the mechanism," Kalen shouted, descending the stairs rapidly. Vellum laughed, a dry rattling sound. "The Chronos lock controls the fate of everything this vault touches." He pulled a lever on the central console. The deafening roar, the floor of the main chamber began to tilt violently. Sand, hundreds of tons of it, poured from hidden vents in the walls, instantly flooding the chamber's lower level. Vellum threw a small, cylindrical device onto the main floor near Kalan. It was an Iremian seismic disruptor, counting down to detonation. "Enjoy your grave, Scythe," Vellum sneered, retreating toward the secondary exit, clutching the Emerald control unit. Kalen knew the seismic charge would destabilize the entire desert region, destroying the vault and her. The disruptor was already humming, a pulsing green light indicating only a few seconds remaining. Diving headfirst down the oily slope, Kalen slid across the polished floor, scooping up the disruptor just as sand began to bury it. She realized the counterpulse had to match the specific structural frequencies of the ancient architecture. She reached into her pack and pulled out a small magnetic tuning fork, an old piece of Iremian communication tech. She struck the tuning fork against the obsidian wall, generating a pure, high-pitched, ancient tone. The disruptor in her hand immediately went silent, the green light blinking out as the counter-frequency nullified the charge. The sound, however, had alerted Vellum, who paused in the exit tunnel. "Impossible. You know the counter key?" he screamed, pulling a flare gun from his jacket. He fired the flare toward the high ceiling, igniting a hidden secondary trap. A sheet of frictionless oil instantly lubricated the steep slope leading to the main console. Kalen, already fighting the angle in the rising sand, lost her footing completely. She threw her climbing axe, sinking the pick deep into a crack in a non-lubricated wall section just before sliding into the main deluge. Hanging precariously, she looked at the console, now 7 meters away across the oily incline. She used the axe pick as a single anchor point, slowly, agonizingly, pulling herself hand over hand toward the control station. The oily surface offered zero resistance, forcing her to rely entirely on strength and pure desperation. Finally reaching the console's ledge, she scrambled onto the platform, leaving the suffocating sand flow centimeters below her boots. Kalen focused on the complex console, covered in Iremian symbols blinking red in the self-destruct sequence. Vellum had initiated deconstruct, turning the vault back into a tomb. Kalen ignored the sand and plunged her mind into the structural dynamics of the ancient controls. She identified the 6 primary structural glyphs: earth, sky, pressure, time, flow, stasis. The flow glyph was pulsing red, dictating the rapid influx of sand. The stasis glyph was inert, locked out by Vellum's override. She quickly realized the logic. To force stasis, she needed to overload the counterforce. She smashed the pressure glyph, diverting all structural counterpressure into the main support beams. The entire vault shrieked, the iron groaning under the immense sudden strain. The flow of sand from the walls slowed to a trickle, then stopped completely, frozen in a silent cascade. Kalen had bought herself moments, but the console was still counting down to total collapse. She needed the final physical key, a structural override. The true lock was a small, unassuming jade disc hidden beneath the main console panel. She ripped the panel open and snatched the jade disc, humming with stabilizing energy. Slamming the disc into the emergency slot, she initiated the structural reset sequence. The red lights immediately turned to a calm, deep blue. The terrifying grinding noise of the walls ceased, and the floor slowly began to level itself. The vault was saved, the threat contained, but Vellum was long gone through the secondary exit. Kalen looked down at the jade disc in her hand, the true Chronos key, the object that stabilized the ancient architecture. Vellum's greed for the mere control unit had trapped him in the collapsing tunnels he had created. Kalen began the arduous ascent, leaving the sand-choked chamber behind. The journey back was quieter, the silence of the vault now feeling respectful. She reached the surface as the desert sun began its descent, the Chronos key warm in her hand. For more high-stakes adventures and academic thrillers, be sure to comment, like, share, and subscribe to Storycraft Studio.